Why, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is Friday. It is the broke ass redneck back at it again. So, what is new in the world of your broke ass redneck friend? Well, I did have a doctor's appointment yesterday. I am now adorning some new fancy jewelry under my shirt. I have a heart monitor on right here, and they're scheduling me for a stress test and an EKG, and they're going to go ahead and do an endoscopy and all that stuff to figure out what in the wide world of sports is going on with your broke ass redneck friend. So I did get a call yesterday while I was at work to come on into the doctor's office to get looked at. So of course I jumped on that because I've got to figure out what the hell is going on with this heartburn. Got to get it, see if it's because of stress, if it's because of an ulcer coming, what have you. And doctor's like, I reviewed your stuff. I reviewed your ER stuff and everything else, and this is what we want to do. We're going to put a heart monitor on you for a week. We're going to schedule a stress test. We're going to, do another EKG. We want to find out if there is anything going on with your heart that we need to be aware of so that we can get this taken care of for you. I'm like, okay, cool. You're doing what you're doing. So, it is what it is. So, with that being said, yeah, I've got all this stuff rescheduled or getting scheduled and everything else. I got to clear it with my insurance and all that good stuff. See, what is going on, who, what, when's, where's, all that good stuff. And here I sit. And I got a big moose and a little moose at coming. So, the dogs are on the way. Now, other things that I have been considering, like I was talking a little bit on about car talk and stuff like that. I've been watching a lot of videos, and one of the ones I follow Velocity Motorsports down in Valdosta, Georgia. Now, yeah, I'm not a big Ford guy, but they're doing good things down there. They're busting out. And yeah, they're only showing the products that they're showing their vehicles, the Team Velocity vehicles, which would be Jay's, Parker, and Wayne's cars, and showing that the engine issues and things like that. It is not always, I have to agree with what Jay is saying. It's not always the shop's fault, and Jay is just, in these cases with these vehicles, Jay is the mechanic. He is working on the vehicle. But when you have the motors being outsourced and built by somebody else, and all you're doing is installing that engine, and they're working with tuners, they're working with engine companies, things like that. You can't blame the final turner of the wrench, is where I'm going with this. And what I mean by that, okay, so Wayne picks up the motors for the cars, brings them to the shop. Jay installs said engines. Now, they're built. All he's got to do is, in some cases, slap an intake on it and the headers and so on and so forth. So, they have been outsourced and built by another manufacturer. Now, and this isn't to throw shade at any of the manufacturers, but bad parts can occur. I mean, it's just, whenever you're running races and things like that, you're on this one constraint. You are always having to fix something. It doesn't matter. sometimes you can turnkey an engine and run it 10 passes and then have to refresh it. Sometimes you can run it one and something happens because of a defective part. And in this case, you know, each time they've pulled, per se, Wayne's motor apart, Wayne's motor has a head problem. Something is going on with the cylinder heads. Now, it could be a defect in the casting of the heads, not blaming the manufacturer of the engine at all, but you know, if they're you know, working with OEM style heads and things like that, not doing like billet CNC aluminum heads, which can be done, but they're very pricey. I mean, this is, you know, you talking about some bucks here, you know, and it's same things keep happening, the injection issues and things like that. That's all part of running a car on a track, and you can't blame the builder. You can't blame the guy putting the motor in. You can't even blame the tuner sometimes. It's just the luck of the draw is exactly what it is. So people throwing shade at these guys is, in my opinion, is not a cool factor, because you know, they're doing their thing. They're pursuing their passion for running them, and that's all it is. They're pursuing a passion. They make livings off of it and things like that, and that's great, grand, and wonderful. Wayne makes his living off of other things, and that's cool too. There ain't nothing wrong with that. You know, he is able to afford to do that stuff, and when you can afford to do that stuff, that's great. You know, I myself couldn't afford to pour piss out of a boot, but hey, here I am. You know, I'm going to shoot content, and I'm going to talk about other content makers and creators that I honestly will stand behind. I'd stand behind those guys, because you know, they're in it for the fun factor. There is a fun factor. If that is your niche, you know, it's like anybody else. Everybody has their own niche, which would include, you know, racing, engineering, developing, things like that. It's nothing to be ashamed of, or anything of that category, to have that passion. And you know, these guys are passionate about what they're doing. They're putting their mistakes out there, and their errors, and they're correcting to educate and show people, not to have a bunch of people diss tracking them. And you know, yeah, it's a diss track like it's a dang rap battle or something, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, you're sitting there watching these guys. They're out here making this content. They're working on cars, and they're only, you know, they're shooting stuff when they're working on their stuff. They're not even showing you the other customers' cars, because you know, they don't want to offend the customers, because some of these customers don't want to see their product, their vehicles or what have you, plastered out there for the world to see. They want it incognito, so you don't know what's creeping up. They might have a 1,300 horsepower monster that they ain't even showing you, that's doing just fine. So with that being said, don't always knock the final wrench turners or the final tuners. It's not always their fault. There's a big thing. I mean, racing, if you racing, you bringing parts. That's how it goes. First your money, then your clothes. But anyway, that's it for number one. It is Friday. I am in a good mood, even though I have new accessories for myself. So with that being said, yeah, I went on my own little thing with Car Talk a little bit, and I'm going to do some more content on it in the future. Y'all have a great Friday. I'll be back. Peace and fish grease.